I happen to have had a couple of friends who run for that position in this state, so I have a pretty good idea of what your job needs to be. When you go to Albany, your job's to watch our money, how it's spent, every dollar, every tax in this room. Here's your 10 minutes. Tell us how you're going to manage it.
Thanks, David. David, thank you for that introduction. Frank and Lorraine, thank you for having me. That was a perfect description of the controller's role, and I want to make sure everybody in this room understands how important this role is. Because the biggest crime being perpetrated in New York State is not one that the Attorney General can prosecute, even when that Attorney General is Dan Donovan. The biggest crime being the biggest crime being perpetrated in this state is the theft of billions of your hard-earned tax dollars by politicians who use it to make promises to special interests to keep their jobs. It's a crime, and this is the year we change it. Now, who's responsible for watching over that money? As David said, it's the controller. If you look around at the state, does anyone think he's doing his job? Does anyone even know his name? I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to say that for later, so you stay tuned. I forget his name sometimes, too. It's a hugely important job, and the current controller is completely AWOL in the battle to save our state. I'm not going to be AWOL. We're calling our campaign Harry Wilson's War on Spending. If it's good enough for Hollywood, it's good enough for us. And the key thing is, for those of us out here, what are my credentials for that war on spending? Well, let me tell you a bit about myself. It's the first time I've met almost all of you. First, on a personal note, I grew up in a small town in upstate New York. My mom was a Greek immigrant. My dad's parents are Greek immigrants. So I'm first-generation Greek American. Wilson is an Ellis Island creation. I learned to speak English in nursery school for the first time. I grew up in a working-class family in a working-class town, just like so many New Yorkers and so many people in this room. I worked hard. I was the first in my family to go to college. Went to Harvard Business School. I went into a successful career in business. I'm a little bit younger than Carl, so my career wasn't quite as long, but it's pretty successful. And I spent my career doing a bunch of things, investing money, much like the controller oversees the pension fund. But most importantly, I spent a big part of my career restructuring and fixing broken companies. The most significant restructuring I did was I led the turnaround at General Motors last year. It's the biggest restructuring in American history. We went in, it was much like New York State, the situation that people said could not be fixed. The problems were too big, been going on for too long. The management team was terrible. You can't deal with the unions. Too many problems. But we took a turnaround plan the management team had laid out to do it for 5 years. We did it in less than 6 months. We took the UAW through a labor agreement and gave them the biggest haircut in their history. So for the first time in American history, UAW wage rates are the same as Toyota. And we created a company that now has the lowest cost structure in the auto industry. For those of you who follow the car market, the big story in the car market is that GM is back. They're profitable for the first time in years. They've increased market share for the first time in 30 years. And for the first time in many, many years, they've actually hired people, new jobs being created, manufacturing jobs, good paying manufacturing jobs right here in New York State, 1,100 in the Buffalo area alone. Why did that happen? We took a very aggressive approach to restructuring. We went in, we said, here are the problems, we're going to cut to the bone to get through those problems, and then that allows the company to regrow. And that's the critical part. That's why I'm in this race as a career business person making my first run for public office. Because I think that restructuring approach is exactly what New York State needs. We need someone, in this case, me as the controller, who would come in, identify the problems, not just do a 10% across the board cut, which is the kind of, I consider the poor man's way to do restructuring. Is to go in and identify the programs that work and the programs that don't work. If a program doesn't work, it should be either fixed or shut down, not cut by 10%, because we're still wasting 90% of the money. That's the right way to go about restructuring. That's exactly what I tend to do with New York. But here's the key part, folks. If we do it right, there's no reason why New York can't be back next year or the year after that. There is nothing wrong with this state except our leadership at Albany. We have every asset that you ever look for in a business. We have tremendous people. We have the best university system in the country. We have great access to infrastructure and natural resources. We have water for manufacturing. We have everything you look for, except we have the worst tax and regulatory environment in the country. And so as a result, it's economically irrational for a business to locate here. My old business life, we owned a lot of companies. We never had New York State on our shopping list unless they were already here, because it was too expensive a place to do business. So if we can cut that, cut spending, cut taxes, to make New York a destination rather than a place people leave from, I think we totally reverse that and see New York grow again. I'll end on one note, because those of you who I want to keep you in suspense, the gentleman's name was the controller, is a guy named Tom Napoli. The reason you never heard of him is he, although he's a career politician, has never run statewide before. He was appointed when his predecessor, Alan Hevesi, resigned in the first of several scandals he's been involved in. And in traditional Albany fashion, they interviewed people. They had a bipartisan commission. Governor Spitzer was governor at the time. Tom Napoli was a candidate, and he got passed over. Governor Spitzer called him, this is a quote, totally and thoroughly unqualified.